Today I've got trades that could change the entire 2025 season. Back in 2021, the Rams acquired Von Miller at the trade deadline from Denver. Miller had 4 sacks in the playoffs, including a pair in the Super Bowl, and became a huge factor in their victory over the Bengals. A year later, the Chiefs made a move a few days before the deadline for Kadarius Toney. All he did, and I mean literally the only thing he did, was post the longest punt return in Super Bowl history and catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl against Philly. KC did it again a year later. They made a trade to reunite McCole Hardman in October of 2023, and a few months later he caught the Super Bowl winning touchdown pass in overtime. Last year, Philly, well, they didn't make any in-season trades, but they didn't really need to. Did you see the Super Bowl? The year before, though, they did trade for Kevin Byard. That one didn't really pan out, but it felt like a cocksure move at the time. And we love things that are cocksure. 2 teams in the hunt last season, the Lions and Commanders, made big trades for corner Marshawn Lattimore and edge rusher Zadarius Smith. The NFL realized good teams want to add that final piece and move the trade deadline back a full week to help them do it. My point is that these moves at the trade deadline actually matter. They often make the difference between a very good team and a great team. Sometimes these guys come up huge in the Super Bowl and make that one play to push their team over the top. Hell, I didn't even mention Odell Beckham Jr., who maybe would have won Super Bowl MVP if he didn't tear his ACL in the big game after the Rams traded for him that season as well. So who is going to do it this year? Who's going to get traded? Well, you better watch the entire video to find out. I'm Brendan Perna, guy who just crossed 800,000 subs. Thank you so much. And this is Thatsgoodsports. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. We are 23 signups away from our first 200 in the month of October. That means I'm 23 signups away from earning another big bonus. Just use my code TGS and only play if you have the funds and you know you can do it responsibly. 2,700 of you filthy bastards are following me on my Prize Picks account. You can see my weekly picks in your feed there. Your usernames are getting ridiculous. Perna told me to. Perna's Pet Lion. Get Perna to bonus. The sushi burrito. Well, that just makes me hungry. Perna's pooping right now. No one beats Goff. Got a glory hole reference in there. Who is Perna? And cool shit. Blot picks and a real throwback, CJ Bash Manderson. You've been watching a long time. I'm kind of dumb, but I just learned that you can click these little double arrows on Prize Picks and you can change the stat total options on a player. You can toggle between their demon and goblin picks on some players. I use that for my Broncos picks against the Jets, and I feel pretty good about this play. Code TGS, Prize Picks, who's rocking with this channel all season. Now, I know some of you just skipped over the ad to this part, but did you use my code TGS at Prize Picks? You skippers! I know what you're doing! That's okay, I get it. Now, we've already seen some trades drop ahead of the November 4th deadline, so let's get into those briefly here. The biggest name to move teams was, of course, 40-year-old Joseph Flacco. Flacco had a rough return to Cleveland, throwing 2 TDs and 6 interceptions before being replaced by Dylan Gabriel. Just a few days after Gabriel made his debut, the Browns dealt Flacco within the AFC North to the Cincinnati Bengals in exchange for a late-round pick swap. The Bengals obviously lost Joe Burrow for roughly 3 months with that toe injury, and Jake Browning just hasn't been the stopgap that he was in 2023. But they're still in a division that's very much up for grabs. I actually like this trade for both teams. Cleveland gets a better pick for a guy who is going to sit on the bench the rest of the year in Cleveland, and Cincinnati gets a chance to tread water in a weak AFC North until maybe Burrow gets healthy. I know that the Bengals offensive line is a liability, but sue me if I want to see the flat cannon drop bombs to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Word to your moms, Flacco came to drop some fucking bombs. So get out your seat and jump around. I think he could still have one more elite meter run left in him, okay? I just think he can never do it twice for the same team, which is why his second stint with the Browns was a disaster.
I think Joe Flacco is actually a very elite quarterback.
Now, Cleveland was not done making moves. They famously moved back out of the number 2 pick in the draft this last offseason, making way for Jacksonville to grab Travis Hunter. And then those two teams cut another deal where they sent corner Greg Newsome and a 6th-round pick in exchange for corner Tyson Campbell and a 7th. The rare corner-for-corner trade. I can't say I really understand the point of this one, other than Newsome is owed $13 million, while Campbell is owed just $3 million. I do know they were both once top picks in the draft, and Jags fans, they really liked Campbell. The other big recent trade included a swap between the Harbaugh bros. Jim sent safety Alohi Gilman and a 5th to John for former first-round edge rusher Odafe Oweh and a 2027 7th-round pick. Oweh has had a really strong start to his career, notching 23 sacks in his first 4 seasons, including 10 a year ago, but he's yet to reach the QB in 5 games this season. I mean, to be fair, no one on the Ravens defense is so much as breathing on a QB. The Chargers have 14 sacks on the year, but they've missed Khalil Mack, who's only played in 2 games after dislocating his elbow. And Mack certainly isn't getting any younger at the ripe old age of 34. Probably a good move by the Chargers, unfortunately for me. All right, now that we've covered what's already happened, and we're barely a week into fucking October, let's talk about what could and should happen before the trade deadline that's less than a month away. And I would like to note that Adam Schefter has already hinted this could be a very busy year for trades before the deadline.
The NFL trade deadline is Tuesday, November 4th. These trades start happening now. I think we'll get close to, 10 to 12 trades. 10 to 12 trades between now and November 4th.
I think that might be because there is no alpha team at the moment. There are more teams still in the hunt out there. And without a clear alpha in the AFC and the NFC, that means teams have probably a little more hope than normal as well. So who are the teams that are just a piece away from hitting their stride and transforming their roster into a contender this year? And I want to start with Buffalo, the team who has my heart. A team that's 4-1 coming off a disappointing loss to New England and now has to batten down the hatches while their former tormentors take a run at the AFC East crown that's belonged to the Billies each of the last year in the 2020s. It's easy to say that Buffalo needs a deep threat, and I think they do, but the more pressing need might be a run stuffer. They will get help with Ed Oliver returning. It was only 1 game, but he looked awfully dominant week 1. Matt Milano returned last week, and oops, fuck, he's already hurt again. At this point in time, banking on Matt Milano to play a full season is like answering your phone when it says scam likely and then having one of the most profound conversations of your life.
My $2,000 watch is a fake, and so am I.
I linked them to the Saints receivers in this week's power rankings, but I think another smart move could be to make a play for 2-time Pro Bowler Demario Davis. Buffalo has to get better against the run, and Davis, while he's 36, has a PFF grade of 91.8 against the run. Let's give him a chance to win a Super Bowl. A vet who can still play on the last year of his deal, it makes too much damn sense. Just imagine the Bills in the playoffs with too many healthy linebackers. No one expected the Colts to be contenders after 5 weeks, but here we are, and they might as well try to capitalize on a 4-1 start. They have a top 2 offense and a top 3 defense overall, but I think it'd be wise to invest in a corner after the retirement of Xavier Howard and injuries to Mike Hilton and Kenny Moore. If the Bengals can't turn it around within 2 to 3 weeks, it would make sense for them to part ways with Cam Taylor-Britt in exchange for, a mid to late rounder. Knowing that it would make sense for the Bengals means they 100% will not do it. Taylor-Britt is in the final year of his contract, and we know how the Bengals feel about paying players not named Burrow, Chase, or Higgins. He's not necessarily a transformative player, but he gives them a little insurance that might end up being the difference when they play teams like KC, Pittsburgh, and Seattle down the road. If the Bengals lose the next 3 games or so, I think they have to trade Trey Hendrickson. While I determine the perfect candidate for him, let's move on to helping the most important team in the world, the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos aren't a team with a lot of deficiencies, at least on paper. They've struggled without their free agent addition at inside linebacker Dre Greenlaw, but he's allegedly going to return soon, and that might fix their woes at the position.
Dre's dead, he's locked in my basement.
The bigger problem might be the interior offensive line. Ben Powers is out now for an extended period of time, and the weak link on an otherwise fantastic unit has been center Luke Wattenberg. What does Sean Payton do when he needs a player or a pick? He calls up the fucking Saints, and they've got a good anchor in Eric McCoy, a 2-time Pro Bowler whose cap space would be nice to shed if you are the Saints. The Steelers are leading a bizarrely depleted AFC North, and it makes all the sense in the world to go all in on Aaron Rodgers' final season, we think. I think this team could really use another wideout. It's DK Metcalf and a sharp drop-off for them. I know I've picked on the Saints already, but the Steelers could really use a guy like Chris Olave. But God knows they'll probably do a 7th-round swap with the Jets for Allen Lazard and call it a day. The Titans do not need to acquire a player to save their season, but the one thing we know about the Titans, other than the fact that they have no chance this season and need to help protect Cam Ward, is they will trade away their best players and not think twice. They need to build a legit offensive line around Cam Ward, and I think they do that by acquiring the necessary draft capital in addition to the high pick they're going to have to do that quickly. If they dealt the most dominant interior defender in the NFL right now in Jeffery Simmons, they could get a haul. Who could use Jeffery Simmons? Everyone. Who will get him? Probably the Eagles. Who should call on him? The Chiefs, who really could use someone opposite Chris Jones to control the line of scrimmage. Tennessee sent DeAndre Hopkins to Kansas City last year for nothing. More seriously, though, I like the 49ers unexpectedly sitting at 4-1 with a giant hole on defense after Nick Bosa went down to make an aggressive move for a game wrecker like Simmons. Now, that's not an apples-to-apples acquisition, but Robert Saleh would be the perfect man to pair with Jeffery Simmons on that defensive line.
Do you know what Colgate and Listerine, you should use the bitch.
Never hurts to double check the coverage, Joe.
The Rams always seem to be sniffing around, and they're a team probably recognizing the end of the Matthew Stafford window, and they might try and jump on it to save their season. They got carved up by Mac Jones last Thursday night, and if there's ever a team who needed a corner, right now it's them. Ahkello Witherspoon was injured early in the season, to no one's surprise. Emmanuel Forbes has had a great target on his back all season, to no one's surprise. I think Greg Newsome would have made a lot of sense for them, but he's already off the market. Maybe they try and salvage L'Jarius Snead while the Titans rebuild. Or maybe they make a bigger swing and try and pry away 29-year-old Marlon Humphrey from the Ravens. That's a trade that might move the needle for the Rams. And if I'm the Ravens, I agree to that trade. And then I just send them Jair Alexander in a Marlon Humphrey jersey and see if anyone notices. I don't expect the Packers to make any more splash trades after the Micah Parsons heist, but could the Bears currently be sensing their moment and try to get some help for Caleb Williams? I'm not talking about wide receiver either, but perhaps at running back. DeAndre Swift is currently averaging 3.3 yards per carry. Not a good month for people with the last name Swift, but what if they did some wheeling and dealing and nabbed Breece? Breece Hall from the Jets. Why did I pause there and make it sound like I forgot who Breece Hall was? I don't know. Hall has had a great bounce back year with the Jets, averaging over 5 yards per carry, but a good running back is an unnecessary luxury for a team that's currently 0-5, and I hope to God they're 0-6 after their trip to London. I think Breece Hall might take some of the pressure off of Caleb Williams, because right now he's had to do just about everything for that offense, and God knows Ben Johnson wants a dynamic running back. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers look like they're in full control of the NFC South, but they're shooting to win playoff games after capping out in the divisional round since they won the Super Bowl back in 2020. Their passing attack is pretty fucking awesome, and Emeka
Emeka Egbegbo, Emeka Egbegbo, Emeka Egbegbo, Emeka Egbegbo, Emeka Egbegbo
is playing like the offensive rookie of the year through 5 games. But they never seem to get much out of the tight end position, do they? Let's change that. You remember who Baker Mayfield trusted the most at Oklahoma? It was a tight end by the name of Mark Andrews. 8 years later, and Andrews has fallen out of favor in Baltimore, but we saw against Detroit that he's still got some juice left, and I think a reunion with Baker Mayfield could turn that Bucs offense into a full-fledged juggernaut ready to win multiple playoff games. And in Jerry world, the Cowboys have some draft capital, as we all know. Their offense is top 5 in scoring and really humming under Brian Schottenheimer, but they also have the 29th ranked scoring defense in the league. And they could use a pass rusher? Shocker, just 9 sacks on the season for Dallas, but they could also use some help in the secondary. Despite being fully in the mix, there's been talk about Seattle moving on from Reek Woolen at corner. Jerry Jones loves big names, even if they haven't lived up to them in a couple years, and I could see him making a big splash to try and acquire the 26-year-old former Pro Bowl corner. I know Trey Hendrickson makes way more sense for the Cowboys, and they have a similar situation going with George Pickens in terms of his contract and future with the team. But I am not giving Scooter Magruder Trey Hendrickson. He can't be right about that many damn things this season. But finally, the king chess piece. Or is it queen chess piece? Trey Hendrickson. I gave the Niners Jeffery Simmons. Shit, I should have given them Trey Hendrickson, right? That makes way more sense. That's a straight up edge for edge player, you know? He's a great replacement for Nick Bosa. Trey Hendrickson, by the way, would have had a brother, but he consumed him in the womb and got all his strength. The Ravens have the biggest need for a guy like Trey Hendrickson, but their season's probably already over, and I don't think the Bengals do 2 inter-division trades. I genuinely think there are 4 teams that could go and call on Trey right now. Well, actually 5. I think Jerry Jones will call about Trey Hendrickson. 4 good teams that could benefit from a pass rushing boost, though, are the Eagles, the Jaguars, the Colts, and the Patriots. Jalix Hunt was supposed to replace Josh Sweat's production from the edge. He has yet to sack an opposing quarterback this season. Hunt ranks 35th with just 13 pressures right now. Cincy will be too dumb to do it, but we all know Howie has already made that call. The Patriots are starting to look like a serious team. I doubt they do anything aggressive to add help opposite Harold Landry this season. Jacksonville does have Josh Hines Allen. They already made a trade. And they do have Trayvon Walker, who is starting to finally develop, even though he was injured against the Chiefs. Which really makes me like the Indianapolis Colts to acquire Trey Hendrickson right now. I gave them corner help already in this episode, but another way you help your secondary is better pass rush. And I noted in power rankings that Indy has a nice sack rate, but is low in overall quarterback pressure. If they can outdo Howie, the world might watch Trey Hendrickson help Dan Jones win a Super Bowl before Joe Burrow. And to that I say, God bless America. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. We did cross 800,000. Now we got to get to 900,000. And that seems like a long way away.